Checking to see if we're live. Alright, looks like we're live, everyone. So today, it's been, first off, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, everything to everybody. Been gone for a little while. Haven't really done much since the election. Took some time off from politics. So, today we are covering, and this is something that I expected I'd have to do. The person you're seeing, this is Dave Cullen of the channel Computing Forever, and he's a channel that I discovered probably about 6 months ago, and I think he's really good. I think he's smart. I think he has a lot of good ideas. He's in the same ballpark as people like Sargon and Bearing, Undoomed, those types. He's definitely a part of the... He was more a part of, I guess you could say, the skeptic community, and then he's more on the political end, not so much with a focus on the religious end. He's very much a part of the counter-liberal thing, you know, kind of like the anti-SJW type. But he's more conservative. He's more of a like a left-leaning conservative, I guess, if you could say. Someone who's open to certain things, but still very conservative. He would be under the Republican Party and vote Republican, but he's more of a modern version, accepting of gays, accepting of other people. But being European, he's a little bit more critical of immigration and a little bit more critical of Islam, which we understand that it has more of an effect over there. And he's very much pro-nationalism, which I'll admit, it made me a bit uncomfortable the more and more he pushed nationalism, because it's when I started thinking, like, okay, got to be careful with that. Nationalism is great, but too much pride in your nation and that you're going to have an issue. But anyway, he has a segment called The Regressive News, in which he highlights things that are not very good that the far left is doing, from safe spaces on campuses to stupid shit social justice warriors on YouTube would say, to stupid things like that, laws that different very liberal nations would push, like was it C-17 or 16 in Canada about transgender issues, that Trudeau would do, shit that Merkel would do in Germany, just all sorts of things. He got really big with Brexit. That really gave him a huge platform to grow, and he does well. He's on Minds as well. He drew me to Minds, and I think he's great. But I think, and this is what I'm going to see with a lot of these people who are more conservative, you're going to see them, the conservatives, become the SJW now. They're going to become the annoying moral busybody, as he would say, and that's what's bothering me. And this first segment is what I want to touch on, and I'll explain. But I'll let Dave take it away.
It's Tuesday, the 10th of January, 2017. It's time now for the Regressive News, the show that gives you a front row seat to the end of the world.
Which is funny. Of course, that being said, the UK and the US both have conservative power now.
As you know, lately, I've been talking a lot about the moral degeneracy of the left,
And that's something I want to talk about too, the moral degeneracy of the left. See, the one thing I don't necessarily care about with Dave Cullen is the fact that he breaks it down to left-right and doesn't really consider libertarians, doesn't consider independence as much. It's either you're conservative or you're left. You're right or you're left, and the left is wrong. It's very similar to how a lot of conservative talk show hosts, from the very plain and tame like Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly to the extreme like Michael Savage, Alex Jones, and Clyde Lewis, they get really intense. And then even the really religious ones, they get really intense and say, you're the left, you're a leftist, you're a leftist. And it's very similar, I've noticed, to whenever an SJW just calls you a bigot, ignorant, you're privileged, you're a racist. It's a way to end the conversation without really explaining anything. It's just throwing it out there. Libertarians do this too with statists, and I hate it when they do that. And conservatives do it with leftists. Liberals do it with, you're a fascist, you're a bigot, you're just a capital. Turning things that aren't necessarily negative into a negative pejorative. It just, to me, it shows a lack of intelligence and a lack to have an open, honest conversation.
That is a common theme in today's video as well. Fox Comedy features 6-year-old trans boy wearing bondage gag.
Now you see, that sounds like something you'd see in a comedy because it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's a joke. More than likely, it's a joke. Calm the fuck down. See, this is something I don't just see conservatives talking about. This is something I see liberals talking about, saying, oh, the boy's in a bondage gag and he's trans, so are you oppressing, you see what I mean? It's reading more into it than there actually is. That's an issue. That's things that moral busybodies do. They read further into it than what's actually there and create more issues than there are or need to be.
So, a sickening new comedy show on Fox features...
That shows you right there. It is already an opinion piece, thus throw it out. It's not valid. Where the fuck did you get this from?
6-year-old boy wearing a bondage gag.
Oh no.
The boy, who's apparently transgendered,
big deal,
is seen wearing the gag after burning his tongue, licking a hot grill at a Benihana-style restaurant in exchange for $1,000 from his older teenage brother.
Okay, so it's a joke. It's probably a joke because the bondage gag may have been found by from their parents, something else. Maybe the teenage boy had it, just trying to experiment. You're taking something out of context and judging it as if there is no context, and it's just, oh, the boy's wearing a bondage gag, and you are assigning context and applying context that may not be there. That's being a moral busybody. That's doing shit you need to be. It's being prudish. You are now being the regressive left. You're being the regressive right. You're being a moral busybody, trying to tell us what we can and can't do. Fuck you, it's art. Who gives a fuck?
Other scenes show the boy dressing like a girl and commenting how the dress he's wearing kind of breezes on my vagina.
Yeah, you get the joke, right? Do you not get it, David? Alright, let me explain it to you. He's a transgender 6-year-old, so he has no concept of adult themes. When the 6-year-old says something that's supposed to sound adult, it's funny because they don't understand. That's the joke. It's funny because it doesn't make sense. The kid is talking about something that he doesn't know. So he's saying something and it makes no sense. You know that he's a 6-year-old with a penis. He doesn't understand what a vagina is and all of that. So him saying something more adult in a nonchalant way is funny. That's the point. It's not pushing an agenda. It's not saying transgender kids are okay. It's introducing a character and using a particular thing about that character as a joke. The same thing, the far-left liberals would be making a stink about this because it's poking fun at transgender kids. That's what you're missing. You should be standing against anyone who takes this down as having more of an agenda than you think, than just trying to make people laugh. But instead you're doing that. You are no better and no different than regressive social justice warriors at this point. You really need to look in the mirror right now, Dave. I'm telling you this because I care.
So, as you know, I've talked about safe schools programs in Australia, which have been teaching kids, very young kids, we're talking 7, 8-year-olds.
Yeah, and this is a show for adults. It's a Fox comedy show that probably comes on sometime after like 9 or 10 p.m. when most kids are asleep. Sure, the child actor has to deal with that, but oh well, they're a child actor. Probably, make the joke here, probably already used to a gag like that. You know, the joke about how child actors are treated. But he's a child actor. His parents consented to it. They understand. They can deal with teaching him that these are themes he'll understand when he's older. Oh well, this isn't brainwashing. It's a fucking comedy show for adults, not for kids. They are not linked. You're about to try and establish a link that does not exist. Careful.
And perhaps younger, about content of a sexual nature that they should not be exposed to.
Agreed. They shouldn't be. Maybe it's a joke because that's the whole point. This kid doesn't understand it and he's making comments about it. It's funny because the kid shouldn't understand any of it at this point. So part of what they're saying is like, oh wow, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's funny because it's a kid saying things like an adult and they don't know. That's part of the humor.
Okay, we know that in Scotland, for example, they want to teach 2-year-olds sex education.
We know they're different things. These are different things. They're not related. Quit doing this. And this is something I had to be prepared for. As soon as Trump took office, I had to be prepared for the conservatives to become the fucking nutjobs again. And me to have to step up and fucking put you dumbasses in your places. I would have spent about a fucking year doing it to liberals. Now I gotta do it to you conservatives. Fuck.
There was a radio, I think it was Radio 4, BBC Radio 4 it might have been, but it was a BBC radio DJ who was talking about showing porn to 5-year-olds and have them analyze it like a Jane Austen novel.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be done. But again, there's no correlation here. The only correlation is that they're a child. However, this is a show for adults. The comedy is based on the fact that the child shouldn't know, that they're too young to know, so that's part of the comedy. So you don't understand. You're just saying, oh, there's a Fox News show that has a kid who's supposed to be transgender, and he's got a he's wearing a ball gag. Oh, that's linked to trying to teach kids about sex education at 7. No, it isn't. There's no link. They're not trying to reach kids. If this was a show on Nicktoons at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, you might have a case. But this is a show on Fox Night, probably on either during the weekdays, like, Monday or Thursday or whatever, at like 9 or 10, or on during the Sunday, Fox Sunday, where they show a lot of their TV shows that are for adults starting at like 7 or 8 and going till almost midnight. This isn't comprehending for you. I don't get why not. I don't get why you're being so quick to jump to this. It's kind of sad.
We've had Salon.com trying to venerate Todd Nickerson, who's a pedophile, with this theme of he's a pedophile, not a monster. I'm sorry, but pedophilia is about as monstrous as it gets.
How is pedophilia related to this? How is it related to this? This is no different than maybe if they found their mom's dildo or vibrator and assumed it was something else, and you're using it, they're like, oh, that must be it. It's something else, and they use it for something else, and they don't know. It's a joke. It'd be no different than if they saw a blow-up doll and thought it was for practicing something. They've made these kinds of jokes. What was the Adam Sandler movie? Chuck and Larry, where Kevin James opens a box and it's a blow-up doll. It's supposed to be Adam Sandler character's blow-up doll, and the kids are like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh no, it's for it's so I can practice CPR. It's a joke. It's a joke.
So we've had all of this indoctrination. We have kids now being told that they can choose whatever gender they want when they...
Agreed. But they're not related. You can't use that to segue into this. They're completely different things.
They go to school, they can pick whatever bathroom they want to use. And I've also had people send me links on Twitter saying, Dave, have you seen hashtag LGBTQP? The P is now being added in. How has this happened?
Well, it's happened because they're fucking crazy too. Because the far left is trying to be as unoffensive to people they think that might be marginalized. And you are trying to be as... You're doing the same thing to people who you think might be like, oh... Here's the thing. The difference between a liberal and a conservative. A conservative tries to make sure that grandma doesn't get offended. Or mom doesn't get offended. I can't offend my parents, my boss, the people who might judge me. Liberals don't want are the same. It's about being judged. Liberals do the same thing, but it's like, oh, I don't want to appear ignorant or hateful or uninclusive. So they're like, oh, you're marginalized. You're different. So I'm gonna pretend that I give a shit about you. It's the same. It's pretend. It's retarded, and it's fake as fuck, and only for self-interest. It doesn't impress me. It's fucking idiotic. Stop it. You are above this.
How are shows like this now considered stunning and brave and progressive by the left?
Shows like what? This show? It's not considered stunning, brave, or progressive. It's considered a fucking comedy, and it's probably going to be over within the next year or two.
Okay, we're teaching kids about transgenderism. We had the Queer Kids Stuff show on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and that's completely separate. That is targeted for kids and should be an issue. Because it's targeted for kids. Trying to teach 2-year-olds about gender and sex. They don't even know how to go to the bathroom yet. So agreed. It's stupid. It's dumb. But they're not related. They're not related. Gosh, I feel like Devin Tracy trying to explain to the fucking Young Turks shit. I feel for you, Devin, man. I feel for you.
And people obviously were thankfully, rightfully, suitably outraged by it. Well, I think this is already happening because of our complacency, isn't it?
Complacency? What complacency? I can find anti-SJW stuff really fucking easy. In fact, if you look up Social Justice Warrior, you find anti-SJW. Excuse me. If you look up feminist, you find just as much anti-feminist stuff and anti-SJW stuff as you would find feminist stuff. Holy shit, there's no complacency. The issue is that they continue to fight back harder because they lost. They lost the battle of ideas. They lost. So they're fighting back even harder, trying to combat this big monster they built up known as Donald Trump because they think he's going to be worse than he is. And yeah, what's going to happen? You stomp on them, they're going to swing back harder. It's the human response. How do you fucking not get this?
We've just handed over the keys of academia and entertainment to the left.
No, you haven't. If you don't like that, make a good conservative show. Make a good show that's for you know why? Because it's not funny. It's not funny. Studio C is funny to Mormons, but it's not funny to anyone else. It's kind of funny. And to be honest, though, you want to get to the liberal thing, liberals have gotten unfunny too. SNL hasn't been good for the past 15 to 20 years. Not since, Will Ferrell was the last funny person to get on there, and he was like one of a few. The generations from the late 80s and early 90s and back, those are good. Most of the good female cast members are dead or older and not involved in that anymore. They're involved in their own lives or political careers. Most of the good cast members are that way. They're dead or involved in their own lives or political careers. And the same goes with writers. That's what happened. The younger writers are just not as good. The younger actors are just not as good. And it's that way with most things. They're not as funny as it used to be. Comedy's changed. Comedy sucks nowadays. That's why the Ghostbusters reboot was shit. It wasn't because they were all females, because comedy sucks nowadays. There's no originality to it. There's no subtleness. It's all playing off of being awkward. That's part of why the show that you're talking about is not going to last very long, because the humor is only shock humor. There's no subtle comedy. It's all just in your face. Can I make you uncomfortable? And that only works for so much. So no, it isn't that the left is taken over. It's that comedy just sucks. In education, yeah, you have more liberals in education. At least more public education, because they're not going to push fucking religion down people's throats. That's the difference. I mean, they'll push their ideology of feminism or whatever the fuck else they want to push, but they're not going to push religion down people's throats. That's why most conservatives are in private schools. But you still have plenty of people who may be considered liberal but are still at least classically liberal in the idea that they believe in freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of ideas, freedom to assemble, right to bear arms, things like that, right to fair trial, and freedom of press. They believe in those kinds of principles, like Peterson in Canada. That they still exist. There's still a lot of them. I had a lot of them when I was at a university. There were a lot of those kinds of teachers who they may have had more liberal leanings, but when it comes on principled values, when it comes on principle of freedom of speech or not offending a couple people and sending people to jail if they do, they choose freedom of speech. And you're not giving people their fair due, and you're definitely judging people harder than they need to be.
Thinking that they'll take care of it. It'll be fine.
And that's the thing too. You're acting like conservatives, just like, okay, liberals, here's education. I'm gonna trust you all with education. I'm gonna be busy doing what the fuck. If you want to have better teachers, produce better teachers. If you want to have better comedians and better producers and directors and writers, make them, become them. Don't just sit here and judge and act like that's going to make a difference. Again, that's what SJWs do. They bitch about, there aren't enough, you're these fucking feminist women, like there aren't enough women in STEM fields. Okay, what did you study? Women's studies. Okay, why aren't you studying a STEM field? Why don't you take science? Why aren't you studying biology or engineering or physics or whatever? Why aren't you doing that? Instead, you studied a fucking non-degree, and you're just bitching about it. Do something about it. See?
Thought that about 30 years ago, and it's gotten progressively worse, and here we are. It's this shallow cultural nihilism that's being promoted by these virtue-signaling progressive leftists.
Not when it comes to entertainment, no. Entertainment isn't the nihilism. The nihilism, it's not even really nihilism, it's more of egocentrism and sycophantism, would it be? It's showing off, it's virtue signaling, that's all it really is. So you're not hitting it on the head. You're way off today, dude. Drink some tea, man.
Everything's okay, anything goes. I'm worried now at this point, having seen stuff like this. I mean, yes, people are pushing back against it.
Wait, are they? I thought they were just being complacent.
But they're not stopping. They're continuing it.
Of course. And oh my gosh. It's no different than with the extreme religious. Pushing back against radical Islam or radical Christianity or radical Buddhism, whatever. Any ideology that has people with radical followers, you push back against the radicals, they're going to push back harder. The only way to stop them is to full out beat them, to illustrate to the rest of the world that that idea is wrong. You have to do it effectively, though, and you can't use their same tactics, and that's what you're doing right now. You're putting them in a bubble. You're saying they're this way and that. You're generalizing about so many different people, throwing a lot of different things that aren't related into the same group. You're drawing lines and connecting dots that aren't there, and you're sounding nuts. Stop it.
And I worry that in the next 10, 15, 20 years that, we're just seeing the beginning of it now, the grassroots movement here at the present time. That
it's been in grassroots for the past 40 years, so it's not going anywhere soon.
The next major human rights push by the left would be pedophilia. The left.
And if they try to push pedophilia, it's not going to fucking work. There are too many liberals that are against pedophilia for that to work. And they're not going to cave to, oh, you're just being a bigot. No, I'm not. They're not going to cave to it because pedophilia is different. It's no different than bestiality. It's that you're forcing yourself upon something that cannot give consent. Animals can't give consent because we don't speak whatever the fuck language they speak. We can't derive consent from them. Children can't give consent because they're children. They aren't adults yet. And we have set a legal age. Different states have some different ones. Different cities have some different ones. But there's still a general consensus of around a certain age when consent can be given. Okay? So you don't have an argument. You're now starting to sound like those who are anti-gay marriage and them pulling out of the bottom of the barrel to try and be like, oh, well, it'll make this, and making radical conclusions. Now, yeah, they're probably pushing, some thinking they're being open-minded are pushing for pedophiles. And again, it's ironic, kind of like how a lot of feminists are pro-Islam and think Islam should just come in, and there's nothing wrong with Islam, and Islam's a great peaceful religion. But I don't understand that Islam, of the three Abrahamic religions, Islam is the most misogynist and most anti-woman. They don't realize that. It's ironic. Same with a lot of these people who are anti-rape and pro-victim, and you know, they have the victim fucking Olympics. If they are being pro-pedophile and supporting people who are pedophiles, then they're shitting on their own cause. And that is going to show how they have no actual core values or principles. It's all a show. It's all just being sycophantic. And that's what's gonna be their downfall. Let them draw their own downfall and point it out as being, you're a hypocrite. Instead of saying like, oh, they're trying to push these bad views on everybody. Oh, it's moral degeneration. I'm a moral busybody. Oh, instead of doing that, say, hey, I thought you were against rape. I thought you were, in favor of rape victims, advocating for people who are victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse. Pedophilia is sexual assault and sexual abuse. Your principles don't line up. You're being a hypocrite. Call them out on it. Call them out on it. That's how you win. Not resorting to the same tactics as they do and putting up another sycophantic show saying, oh, see, I'm against pedophilia. I'm a better person. Oh, no, you're not. You show you're a better person when you call out their hypocrisy in principle.
Left demonstrates an ambivalence and a moral apathy towards the future of our society. They don't care. They're concerned with instant gratification.
You're close. They're concerned with looking like they care. Again, they're sycophants. That's what it is.
The self, the ego, pure, unadulterated hedonism. When you value the self more than anything else, you're not going to care about the future.
You see, you're getting on there. Maybe I'm already getting to you.
If the attitude among the left is basically, well, I'm not going to live in the future, I'm not going to live there.
No. That's the attitude of the right. The right is, well, it's not going to deal with me. I'm okay with doing whatever. It's usually, especially towards the environment or other things. Just let it go. It'll fix itself. Liberals aren't that way. Liberals are busybodies. Like, we have to fix it now. You can't say, you can't call someone say that someone wants instant gratification and at the same time say that they will be like, it won't affect me now. Yeah, they want instant gratification. So they're worried about the now. The now. They're worried about their effect now.
Why do I care? I just care about now, this moment.
Yeah,
Well, then you're never really going to care about children, are you? Because children are the future.
They care about children, but it's in a weird way.
And when you have a child, you have a stake in the future.
You have a stake in the future no matter what. If you are alive today, you have a stake in tomorrow.
And you know that birth rates are so abysmally low.
Well, yeah, because we don't need to have as much birth rates anymore. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and if 50% are female and 50% are male, you really still only need to have a bit. We don't need the population to continue to grow. So it's okay if we slow down as long as we continue to still have children, and those children are still protected. Especially, hopefully, if the people who are having children are the healthier ones.
And leftists tend not to have children, but they're happy to sexualize other people's children.
And it's not necessarily they're sexualizing them. You gotta be careful with that. They're not sexualizing them necessarily. It's more that they're introducing them to sex and adult themes at an age where their mental capacity just cannot. They don't have the mental capacity to understand it. That's the issue. You're teaching a kid about how you're teaching a 2-year-old how their pee-pee will make other babies when they're still technically a baby themselves. They can't grasp that. All they understand is that they have a pee-pee and it makes warm, stinky liquid come out of it when it hurts. That's all they know. So yeah, that's why you can't can't do that. It's
they're happy to psychologically abuse other people's children.
they're not necessarily psychologically abusing them in that way. They're trying to manipulate them. In a way, it's abuse because it's taking advantage of them. And it's taking advantage of their youth to try and manipulate them at a young age, no different than what a lot of religions or cults or other ideologies do. It's a way of making sure that the future, which this is planning for the future, is trained in the ideology we want them to be trained. That they are mentally wired as the group wants. And you need to fight that, definitely. That's why I want to homeschool my kids when I have them, if I have them.
In this way. A responsibility of the future is a responsibility of children.
Yes and no.
And if you don't care about the future, you won't care about children. So this kind of stuff happens.
I don't necessarily care about the future, but I care about children, so...
So this show, The Mick, the best thing to do is to starve Fox of advertising revenue and boycott the series.
Why? Just because of that one little scene. See, again, you're taking it out of context and have no understanding. How about you watch the fucking show, dumbass, then get back to us? You're no different than the fucking liberals who saw the fucking poster of Apocalypse choking Mystique and thought, that's misogyny and women hatred. How can we tell our parents? How can I tell my kids about that? Be like, Mommy, why is the bad guy choking the good guy? Well, it's not because the bad guy's the bad guy, and that's what bad guys do. It's because he's a man, and we live in a patriarchal society. That's what you sound like. You sound just like that. Stop.
Chris Menahan of Information Liberation wrote the article that I'm currently reading.
Yeah, and he probably didn't even fucking watch the fucking show. Just saw that and went nuts. Probably got the fucking article off, probably got the info off InfoWars or some stupid shit like that.
And it got featured on the Drudge Report where it went viral.
Called it. Fucking called it.
People obviously were furious about what they were seeing, and Fox has been removing any mirrors of the trailer on YouTube.
It's just a trailer. Okay, everyone, we're gonna pause for a minute and we're gonna go watch this trailer. What's the show called? Let's do this. We're having 3 YouTube things. I can't spell. Excuse the shit out of me. So we're gonna do Fox TV trailer. So what's it called? What's the show called? What's the show? Do you have it in the description? In the description. Let's go back. Let's hear you say it again.
Report where it went viral. People obviously were furious about what they were seeing, and Fox has been removing any mirrors of the trailer on YouTube. And the self, the ego, pure, unadulterated hedonism. When you value the self, well, then you're never really going to care about children, are you? Because children are the future.
Okay.
And when you have a child, you have a stake in the future. And you know that birth rates are so abysmally low, and leftists tend not to have children, but they're happy to sexualize other people's children. They're happy to psychologically abuse other people's children in this way. A responsibility to the future is a responsibility to children. And if you don't care about the future, you won't care about children. So this kind of stuff happens. So this show, The Mick, the best thing to do is to starve Fox.
Thank you, Dave. Oh, The Mick? What? The Mick, yeah. Yeah, I've seen. What is this? Here's a preview.
As far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm here, I have 2 jobs: make sure nobody dies or winds up pregnant.
Oh God, are we having the talk?
No, I don't want to have the talk at all. Why don't you just take some of my pills?
You keep your birth control in a plastic bag.
Well, I buy it in bulk online. Oh, what the heck is going on up there? Your sister sister's getting furniture delivered. Is that a mojito?
Yeah, it is.
That's my girl.
At least I understand the plight of diverse people.
Name one non-white friend.
Alba, super not white.
What's her last name?
Gonzalez?
Perez. Maldonado.
That's a tough start, guys.
You just drink that whole thing? You're only supposed to drink a capful.
Do you like my turtle?
No, not really.
Alba, will you please take Ben to the playroom?
Well, if you're gonna use bad words, I already know 5. The B word you always call Mickey.
Thank you.
Was the B for boisterous?
Alright, let's see if we can find another one, huh? Where can we find one, huh? Where can we find the bad one that you're talking about, eh? Oh, I don't see. Oh, so again, it's you're reading too much into it. It's supposed to be. I've seen previews for it too. It's just a joke. The show is obviously pushing the envelope, and a lot of those jokes were making fun of liberal stereotypes, and we're making fun of irresponsible stereotypes. So I don't think you understand comedy, Dave. Are you triggered? Are you offended? See, because now you're acting no different than this person. You are acting like this. Fucking shit. My computer's being retarded.
I am here to provide some adult supervision.
This is what you're acting
Calm
like.
down, young lady. The correct word for contemporary third wave campus feminism is not cancer, but madness. Future historians are going to look back at what excluding true women of color. Future generations will look back.
This is you. That's what you are acting like, essentially, Dave. You're assuming things and saying, "Oh, because this isn't something I like, I'm going to attack it. I'm just viewing it on the surface. I'm not looking deeper. I'm not reading anything. You probably haven't seen a fucking episode. You probably haven't even seen any of the trailers." It annoys me when people do this, when they know nothing about the subject and start spewing bullshit. You are better than that, Dave. Far better than that. As someone I look up to, I expect a shit ton more. As someone who's supposed to be a voice of reason on the internet, I expect a shit ton more. And as someone who's supposed to be a representative of the modern conservative, who's supposed to be rational, but still holds on to some of the better parts of conservatism. You know, as a libertarian, I can agree with some of it. Capitalism, private ownership, individualism, things like that. I would expect a shit ton more. So please, you're probably never going to see this, but if you do, please think about what you're saying. Think about that you're connecting dots that don't need to be connected. that have no connection. And you're right about, you're not wrong that there is a degeneration of morality and a lack of true understanding. And it's sycophantic by the left, of course. But you need to realize there's a difference between trying to teach kids about sex at age 2 or 3 or 6 or 7 before they reach puberty, and having a show that has a character and it's a comedy. Okay? Comedies are going to be off the wall. Comedies are going to embrace stereotypes or very out there characters, because those are the easiest to absorb to make jokes. You can't have jokes very well with a complex character. Jokes are better from someone who can be seen as two-dimensional and plain. Two-dimensional, transgender kid. Two-dimensional, easy to understand. That's going to be their main character. This is the shit you have to explain to these fucking hyper-feminists when they get upset about stereotypes being used in comedies. But they're the easiest to digest to make the joke work. You need to realize that you are doing the same thing that the far left does when they see something they don't necessarily like. Don't be a moral busybody. Stand up for what's right. You're right about the sex education for young kids. Stick with that. Don't bring art into this. You don't fucking understand. Thank you guys for watching. It's been great to be back. I'm going to be doing this more often. I did this Wednesday. I'll probably do some more tomorrow night. I got some work to get going and do some other stuff. So I hope you guys will watch. I'm going to be bringing back friends and stuff to join me. Hopefully more people. I'm hoping to start getting on other guests to discuss people of different political views and things like that. People who have done more than I have. I want to hear their view, because people aren't just one way or another. They're people who would be assigned to a group, a large general group, who have different perspectives and think differently. They're not just one mindset like we try and make them, like we try and think, like people try to make them in an argument. They're not just two-dimensional characters. People have a lot of depth to their thought, and there's a lot more nuance than we care to admit. So I'd like to bring on more people in that. Hopefully I'll be getting Destry back for a bit. I'd like to have Jeff on one more time, at least this year. He's busy doing stuff. Jeff was from Jeff for Justice. I'd like to have my other friend Jeff, my good friend Jeff, who's been very politically active with me in my local area. He's a great guy. And a few other people as well who I know around here and other places. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully it'll be a weekly thing. I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to also start producing videos, get back into SJW 101. I'd also like to do a few other things. I want to be poking fun more at conservatives, obviously, as well, because they're in power and you need to hold power sweet to the fire. So that's that. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had a great time. I hope you had a great holiday. I'm back. It's good to be back. Take care.
Talks of advertising revenue and boycott the
perspective. You want some kind of race-based science? Sorry, love. Science is the best tool.
No, Dave. I want to hear the good things. I'm going to send off. Send off for me, bud.
Or her work.
So that's where I'll wrap up this episode of Regressive News, guys. And as always, I end it on a note of shill. Because if you'd like to virtue signal your heartfelt support for what I do here, you can do so on Patreon, link below in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Follow me on all the usual social, and of course, I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye-bye. It's Tuesday, the 10th of January, 2017. It's time now.
Of course. Computing Forever is linked in the description below. Check out his channel. He has a lot more good stuff. His older stuff really good, and I think he'll eventually come through and do some better stuff. So, again, this is done with no ill will towards Dave. It's done because I care and because I see him making a mistake, and you need to correct the mistakes of the people you care about. You don't let it go. You don't be complacent. You say, hey, you're fucking up. Don't do this. So I hopefully if he watches it or any of his followers watch it, know that this isn't about making enemies. This is about pointing out a mistake and I hope it works out. So, thanks again for watching it. You guys have a good night. Take care. Bye.